We're really excited again to be presenting Measuring Safety. Thank you so much for joining our launch. Shelby, if you want to kick it over to the next slide to get started. So today we're going to be introducing ourselves, who the network is, the work that we do, and really what the goal with Measuring Safety is. The network has been doing Measuring Safety, I believe, for 4, maybe 5 years now. So we're really excited for the continuation of the project. We're going to be highlighting key takeaways from the Illinois Domestic Violence Hotline report, and then highlighting some key takeaways from the Survivor Fund report, and Shelby is going to be covering that part of the presentation. So who is the network and what do we do? The network is a coalition of organizations working to end domestic violence across the Chicagoland area. We're also administrators of the Illinois Domestic Violence Hotline, which is available 365 days a year, 24/7. We also serve our membership by providing training, resources, and we advocate for policy and systems change as well. Measuring Safety is our annual data report, and this year we're really excited to be serializing that report. As I mentioned earlier, Measuring Safety is really intended to assess experiences of gender-based violence across Illinois, as well as assess the services provided in the state. It really is, a tool to learn about the nature of violence, the gaps in services, and how we can work as a community with our stakeholders to prevent future violence. It really serves as a blueprint for the public and private stakeholders that work with us in this work. And it's intended to be a contemporary snapshot of what the situation is across the state. And it can be used for advocacy, for funding opportunities, as well as for education. So we take pieces of Measuring Safety and really use it in all of our work. So as I mentioned earlier, Volume 1 is the first serial edition of Measuring Safety. We do plan on continuing to serialize the report, and this will allow us to do kind of a deeper dive into specific key areas of interest for our membership, our external stakeholders, and everyone who's invested in ending domestic violence. And really, this Volume 1 is our Illinois Domestic Violence Hotline report. And this will continue to be a standard report in our series because we do administer the hotline. And today we're going to be focusing on 3 key areas in this volume. We're going to be looking at growth and contacts, understanding survivor needs when they call the hotline, and also how your community may rely on the Illinois Domestic Violence Hotline. And I want to take a moment to really recognize the staff that administer the hotline, our director, the managers at the hotline, and our VERAs. Every data point in this report shared in this presentation has a staff member and a survivor behind it. And we really want to acknowledge that and thank the hotline staff for their work and also for sharing their stories with us to give breadth and depth to really the data that we're here to share with you all today. So with that, we're going to dive into growth and context to the Illinois Domestic Violence Hotline. So in 2023, we saw 47,349 contacts come into the Illinois Domestic Violence Hotline. Contacts have continued to surge past, post the COVID era. And this is overall a 27% increase in contacts from 2022. So we'll share further in the report kind of the upward trend we're on. And this is a 90% increase in contacts from pre-pandemic in 2019. So this graph really highlights contacts over the past 5 years. And it shows, a breakdown from contacts coming directly from the city of Chicago, contacts coming from Cook County, which is the largest county in the state of Illinois and has the city of Chicago within it, and then contacts from across Illinois. And you can see compared to 2022, the pink trend line that shows the 27% increase in contacts in Illinois from 2022 to 2023. And so this year, the report again includes a breakdown of contacts by county with an emphasis on counties that have experienced an increase in contacts. And we are doing a lot of work to continue to expand visibility of the hotline. And we're now receiving contacts from 98 out of 102 counties across Illinois. The counties with the highest contacts that we're continuing to see somewhat of an increase and an increase in contacts is DuPage, Lake, Will, Kane, and Winnebago, which are our collar counties that surround Cook County. And this is the first year that we're including this wonderful map that we're really excited for. It is a heat map that shows a breakdown of contacts by zip code in Chicago. And so after 3 years of kind of having stagnant contacts coming directly from the city of Chicago, this is the first year that we saw a really substantial increase in contacts with a 26% increase in contacts coming from the city of Chicago alone. And you can see that this heat map demonstrates that there is an increase in the darker teal zip codes. And those darker teal zip codes really do focus in on the south and west sides. And that's where the predominant call volume is coming from, which is something we really would like to emphasize here. We've also included a list of those neighborhoods in case that some of those names might stick out to you. And the next part is we're going to talk about what survivors express when they call the hotline, or what needs and services are they really looking for. So top needs across Illinois and Chicago are broken down here, and they're all ranked in the same order. So you'll see that in 2023, domestic violence shelter continued to be the highest requested service or need. Second to that was information. Third was legal advocacy for orders of protection. Fourth, crisis intervention and emotional support. And fifth is direct links to services. And so domestic violence shelter, we're going to dive into a little bit later. I want to emphasize that survivors can call with a variety of immediate needs, and more than one service can be indicated by a VERA when collecting this information from the caller. Domestic violence shelter is pretty straightforward. That is someone who is looking for immediate housing and shelter. Information can be pretty wide and a catch-all, but that typically is safety planning for survivors and just looking for general information. Legal advocacy for orders of protection, that is someone who is looking specifically to be connected to or referred to a provider who may be local to their area, looking for support in obtaining that order of protection. Crisis intervention and emotional support. This is really when a caller is calling in that moment of distress and high need. So this is really being able to respond to those calls in a trauma-informed way, talking to the caller, making sure that their immediate needs are met and that they have that referral for services if and when they need it. And then the final fifth highest need expressed is that direct link to services. So this is a warm handoff. This is our VERAs directly connecting that survivor to their local service provider, whether that be for shelter, counseling, legal advocacy, so on and so forth. So across Illinois, as we mentioned on the last slide, the top service need was domestic violence shelter. And we saw a 45% increase in contacts compared to 2022 requesting shelter. And this was an astounding 102% increase in contacts for this service compared to pre-pandemic 2019 requests for domestic violence shelter. And this graph really highlights, that trend of calls requesting shelter, and we're gonna dive into the totals between the city of Chicago and Illinois. But I just want to take a moment to really highlight the jump between 2021 and 2023. Unfortunately, in the city of Chicago, we really see that there is repeatedly an unmet need for immediate shelter. And in 2023, we saw a 29% increase in the requests for domestic violence shelter being unmet, with 124 days of no beds or cribs available across the city. We also saw that the need or demand for affordable housing was really increasing, with a 46% increase compared to 2022 totals. And, we can attribute this to obviously a lot of survivors. Shelter might not always be the best fit, but folks are in need of housing assistance and affordable housing. And so we wanted to highlight this as an area that we will potentially see going into the future, again, increased need and increased requests for not just shelter, but affordable housing. Folks are really looking to have somewhere stable to go when leaving that violent situation. In order to try and address this urgent need for shelter and housing, the network, the hotline, and in turn the network do offer a crisis housing program, which is temporary hotel stays that help offset the need for shelter. In 2023, the hotline provided stays to 128 survivors, 44 adults, 77 children, and 7 pets. And this was across 48 families and amounted to an average cost of $1,720 for an average of 10.2 days of stay. And here on the right, we want to highlight a story from a hotline staff who expresses, how they took this call and were able to get the survivor into our crisis housing program. So I just want to take just a moment for everyone to have an opportunity to briefly read the story that the Bureau has shared. I think we can move on. So legal advocacy services, as we talked on one of the previous slides about the top service needs that callers call with, one of them was legal advocacy services and obtaining an order of protection. And here we have the breakdown again of the graph with Chicago compared to the state of Illinois. And really what we have seen is, unlike many other services, the request for legal advocacy services went unchanged compared to 2022 totals, which is something we find very interesting, is that even though call volume has increased, that has kind of stayed consistent, and we might consider that that might be the new normal in terms of the call volume and the request for this service that callers are expressing. And so you can really see that this is still a 77% increase in demand from pre-pandemic totals in 2019. You see that spike in 2021, and we really do attribute that to our court systems and our advocates having to respond to safety protocols during and after the pandemic, immediately after the pandemic. And so we do believe that this is the leveling out of this service. So we're interested to see where this trend goes in the foreseeable future. And our Safe Rides program, the hotline also administers the Safe Rides program, which is a program that allows survivors in need of emergency transportation services, who may be isolated, don't have access to any other form of transportation, or might just be need in immediate urgent transportation to get access to that transportation via Uber. And so we saw 110% increase in this service that we were able to provide compared to 2022. We're able to provide 1,678 rides, traveling 38,745 miles, covering the cost of $59,704 worth of emergency transportation. And the bar chart on the left does provide a breakdown of what these totals were by month for adults and children. And a follow-up from that, on average, among the 1,678 rides we were able to provide last year via our Safe Rides program, the average cost was $51. And we also saw an average of 33 miles in distance traveled for each of these rides. So the next brief section of the presentation will be covering how your community relies on the Illinois Domestic Violence Hotline. So this year, we're really excited to have this new feature, which is a breakdown of contacts from the hotline composed of ward and legislative districts. So wards are specific to the city of Chicago, and you can see that we have the total contacts, the form that they came in, so were they calls, texts, or chats, the percentage change from 2022, and then what the top needs and reports of violence were. We also did include a zip code breakdown, just because it is our first year doing this. We don't have precinct level data. So we did include all of the zip codes that we included in this report. And we also ranked them compared to where they fall amongst their other districts. So in the city of Chicago, we ranked them 1 to 50. And then for the General Assembly in the state of Illinois, we provided Senate and House district breakdowns containing the same information. And again, we're able to break them down by chamber. And we're really excited about this feature because we believe that not only does it serve a tool for you and your community, if you know what ward you live in or what district you live in, to really see how domestic violence is impacting your local community and or your zip code, but it also can serve as a tool for service providers and those in community working to end domestic violence to pinpoint areas that they may be able to engage in outreach, expand services, connect folks to the hotline, and really plug that as a tool to connect them to the broader range of services that our service providers have to offer. So before we dive into the next section of the report, I do think we have a few minutes to see if there is any questions that we have from the audience. So I will turn it over to Megan.
Okay, so the first question is from Laura Ng from DFSS. Is the zip code data further broken down in the full report by whether those calls came from a survivor?
I can hop in there, Maralia. In terms of zip code level data, we have that general district level report available for every legislative district in the state and every ward in the city. So those combine zip codes right into those sort of legislative districts. We are always able to do deep dives at a zip code by zip code level through our data request process. So we do record who is calling, right? If that is the survivor or a provider or a family or friend. And if you're interested in very granular information like that, the best way to receive that information is to hop on our website and go to the data request page of our website. That'll send you to a quick form that'll get submitted to me, and then we will connect to make sure that you have the specific information you're looking for. Generally, we're keeping things broader in the report, so we're looking at state level, city level, or now newly this district level data.
you. The next question is from Jennifer Rosenkrantz. Does the Illinois data not include all of Illinois except for Chicago, or is Chicago included in Illinois data?
Chicago is included in Illinois data, and I think that that's something, that we can maybe, talk through, but it is pretty clear in the report that every time you're looking at the map, it's Chicago, and the totals do add up. So, Shelby, did you have anything to add there?
Nope. Yeah. Anytime you see Illinois, it includes Chicago. If in the rare occasion we are excluding Chicago from analysis, that'll be really explicitly written in the report.
The third question so far is from Crystal Lopez. How can survivors access the Safe Ride program? I feel like I can take this one. The best way for survivors to access the Safe Ride program is to call the Illinois Domestic Violence Hotline, the 877-2-END-DV. And they can talk to a Vera and let them know their needs, which may include safe rides, and then the Vera can take it from there. Do either of you have anything to add?
The only thing I would add, Megan, is that those safe rides do need to happen where pickup is at a safe location and drop off is at a safe location. So if there's violence happening at home and there is a chance that the person causing harm might come home, we aren't going to do that pickup there. We're going to ask that survivor to go to a safe public place and do the pickup from there. And then that safe drop-off can be anywhere, right? So it doesn't have to just be for example, court services or medical services. It could be to shelter or to a family or friend's home, anywhere where we know that survivor is going to be safe when they arrive.
Any other questions, Megan?
That is everything in the chat, but if you have questions, please feel free to put them in the Q&A and we will answer them at the end. Thank you.
Thank you so much.